Welcome to Seize the Mains by Malhotra's IS Academy. I'm Sirbhi Sirdana and I'm taking this daily answer writing initiative from Monday to Friday at 9 pm. Here we discuss UPSC mains level sample questions or previous year questions and we tell you how to write good answers for them. The special part about this initiative is that you can also write your answers and send them to us to be evaluated by our experts entirely free of cost. So beginning with our today's discussion, which is for day 27 from GS paper 3. The topic for today is land reforms in India. The question for today is, why are land reforms needed? Examine how have they evolved after independence. Answer in 150 words for 10 marks. You can send your answers for this question by 9 pm tomorrow, that is within 24 hours or by 17th of March 9 pm. So the thing is that this question has two parts to it, that why are land reforms needed or why were they needed, what is their need, and the second part is that how have they evolved after independence, means whatever the land reforms have been carried out after independence till date, you will have to talk about them and conclude by giving a relevance or what are the effects that they have created. So since this first part talks about the need, we'll include the importance of land reforms in our introduction itself, and then we'll continue to write about 4 or 5 needs of land reforms, that why were they required. So the examine directive here directs you to assess all the parts of the situation. So what were their positive impacts, what were their negative impacts, you'll have to write 1 or 2 lines around that also. So moving on, here's our introduction. So the first line here, the introduction talks about that what are land reforms, what is the definition of land reforms, this technical term. So after talking about the definition of land reforms, what was their need after independence, exactly after independence. So let me read this out for you to make it more clear. Land reforms is a planned and institutional reorganization of the relation between man and land, that is, changes introduced into the system of land tenure and the farming structure. So this is strictly with respect to India, this definition is strictly with respect to India. In August 1947, India won political independence, but social and economic independence was yet to be achieved, with most of the population being either small or marginal farmers or tenant cultivators. Hence the need for land reforms was felt. So this is there is a popular statement by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar also, that in black and white we have secured independence for our country, equality for our country through the constitution, but in the social and economic perspective, in the social and economic front, in the reality of things, that equality, that justice was not there, and land reforms was a thing that could be the first step towards ensuring equality, towards ensuring distributive justice. So that was the first step, and that's why the need of land reforms was felt to eradicate inequalities in the society, which had mainly erupted due to the land settlement systems that were being carried out in the colonial times, the zamindari system, the mahalwari system, and the upcoming of zamindars, and where no rights were given to the tenants or small farmers. So need of land reforms, this part talks about the first part of it. This question has to be answered in 150 words only, but we also aim to provide you the content for every issue that we talk here. So the answers discussed here are a bit long. Make sure that when you write your answer, you have to finish it in 150 words only. Take the clues from here, take the content from here, and after giving the heading, just write the keyword or just write in keywords, don't write full sentences. So that is the way to write answers within the stipulated word limit. So let's see what was the need of land reforms, what can be the 4 or 5 broad needs that can be seen. See, land is the most important form of property in India, and it was there at the time of independence also, because it was there in hands of the few rich people, few zamindars or few big landholders. So ensuring egalitarian structure in India was a challenge. So first of all, egalitarian structure, promotion of equity, that had to take place, and that could be only ensured when land reforms were in place. The second part is that when land reforms were carried out, smaller patches of land have higher productivity because they are cultivated by either the family members, or since the land is small, there is more effort put in to cultivate the crops whatever there are in. So experimentally it has been proved that it improves the agricultural productivity of land. So there are side effects to it, but distribution, redistribution of land, and preventing exploitation of tenants was the need of the hour. So these were the 4 basic needs. You can just read the highlighted keywords, and you can download the PDF to read entire answer later on. So promotion of egalitarian structure, and the goal of land to the tiller. Whoever is cultivating the crops, the land should belong to him, or whoever is cultivating on basis of rented land also. So the land should belong to that person, not the one who is sitting back and enjoying the fruits of labor. So the second part is this promotion of equity, and land is an important form of property. So to multiply wealth, especially to redistribute wealth amongst the poor people, this was an important reform. The third part is elimination of exploitation in land relations through legal reforms in ownership, tenancy and management of land, that is to ensure distributive justice. So legal reforms had to be carried out to ensure that justice is there happening in the real life also. So this that led to elimination of exploitation. Increasing the production and productivity, this we've already discussed. So when you're writing your 150 words answer, make sure that you write only the keywords or whatever important facts that you find here. So as you know that the subject of land, it falls under the state list. In the union does not make many laws related to land. So all the reforms that were carried out, they were separate. They were carried out separately in separate states. So there is no uniformity. But we can club these land reforms in like 3 parts, in 3 phases. 1947 to 1970, the reforms happening there. This is called the phase of institutional reforms, that whatever legally and institutionally we were lacking behind, we improved on this part. Then next came 1970 to 1991, that was the phase of technological reforms. Cooperative movements were started here. Many this green revolution, the most important revolution of times in terms of agriculture and land, that was there. And the third phase is 1991 to present. Here you can talk about the recent initiatives of government, or initiatives that were carried out especially after this PVT, privatization and liberalization, LPG reforms. So this was your linkage point. After this you can directly move on to the second part of the question, that is introducing how land reforms have evolved over time. So the first part to discuss here is land reforms from 1947 to 1970, that is phase of institutional reforms. The first thing that had to be carried out was abolition of intermediaries, the people who were just enjoying the fruits of the labor and not giving enough profits or enough benefits to the actual tillers of land. They had to be eradicated, and people who were actually tilling the land, who were cultivating crops, had to be brought in direct contact with the government. So following the recommendation of Kumarappa committee, all the states in India enacted legislation for abolition of zamindars, jagirdars, etc. So by 1960, these many cultivators were brought under the direct contact with the government. So this was the first part, abolition of intermediaries. I think most of us know about it if you've read modern history and postmodern history, history post-independence. So this is the first thing that was carried out. Second one was tenancy reforms. If people were cultivating on the same land for a long period of time, they were given ownership rights. The tenant farmers were provided with security of tenure, and those cultivating land for a fixed period were given ownership rights. So this ensured rights of the people who were actually doing the labor, and hence promoting equality and social mobility. Economic justice was also promoted through this. The third one was ceiling on land holdings and land consolidation. So since many landholders had a lot of land, had huge patches of land, so ceilings were there that anybody cannot own more than this more than this hectare of square kilometer of land. So this was there. State governments passed legislations to limit the maximum amount of land that could be held by an individual. Excess land was to be distributed to the landless farmers. And the fourth and most important one was voluntary donation. You must have read about Bhudan and Gramdan movements by Vinoba Bhave. So these movements were carried out, and they received immense response in some parts of the country. So it was voluntary donation of one's land to help the poor. So Bhudan and Gramdan movements were started to persuade big landlords to renounce their land properties in the name of village. So this was the first phase. This was the phase of institutional reforms. Moving on to the phase of technological reforms. This was before LPG, 1970 to 1991. So what were the initiatives carried out here? Redistribution of land ceiling surplus land. So whatever the land was restored from those land ceiling practices, that was redistributed, and updating of land records was done. Here you have to include the part of green revolution also. Redistribution of land ceiling surplus land. The ceiling limits of about 4 hectares or of irrigated land cultivable twice a year was set by Union government in consultation with state governments, and updating of land records to prevent corruption that was happening in ownership rights, making land records available to all to contain check property frauds. So many times it happens that land is registered in the name of somebody else, but someone else is enjoying the benefits of it. So this was kept a check on, and it became one of the objectives of the government of India in the late 1980s. So moving on, what happened after the LPG reforms? After the economic reforms of 1991, liberal land reforms like land leasing, cooperative farming, contract farming, they were promoted, because we were understanding that agriculture is something our economy cannot rely on, and since we have a lot of land, and that too fragmented land, or the land decreasing in quality, so we'll have to come up with new techniques, and we do come up with new techniques every other year. There's so many policies of government to promote the productivity of land that is already available. In fact, in these laws there were restrictions for conversion of agricultural land into some other commercial purposes or even residential purposes. So this was done away with. Recent land reforms include digitization of land records, creation of land banks, land pooling, etc. These are very important things, because this is a 150 words question. We've not given much details. There are details on the next page of it. There are 2 policies, there are 2 acts: Digital India Land Records Modernization Program 2008. Make sure that you prepare these topics separately for a separate question to be seen. So see what were the features on this. You can read this at your home by downloading this PDF. The second one is Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. That whenever the government or any private entity acquires land for development of a commercial project, how that acquisition takes place, where is the conversion of one kind of land to another kind of land possible or not possible, and what are the rehabilitation criteria that are there, and how much reimbursement does the owner get. So these 2 acts are very important. Make sure that you read them. Moving on to the conclusion part, we have addressed the 3 types of reforms. Just make it a point to add green revolution here in 1970 to 1991 reforms. So moving on to conclusion can be dealt with in 2 ways here. Either you can give a very positive approach, positive conclusion that yes, because of the land reforms we have seen so much development or things like that, or we continue to see that today. Or the second part you can talk about is that the focus from land reforms needs to shift to generating more employment or economic opportunities for people, because land as a resource is limited. The productivity of agriculture will remain like stagnant for some time, and the role of agriculture in GDP has reduced to less than 20%. So that dependence has to reduce. Land reforms was a very important tool after we achieved independence for ensuring equity and justice in the society, but this is not the case right now. After the digitization and all these modern practices in land reforms, now our focus has to shift from land reforms to fitting people in different kind of economic opportunities. Animal husbandry could be there, or dairy farming could be there, or any certain any other types of employment which do not involve the use of a lot of land. So there can be 2 conclusions. Let's see what is the first part of it. What is the first conclusion that we have here? It talks about the positive impacts of land reforms. So with all these reforms, large semi-feudal rapacious landlords rack renting the peasantry as well as extracting illegal cesses and cash, kind or beggarly labor became a thing of the past. So these are the things that could be dealt with, which was the immediate need after independence. So burden of land revenue became near zero as agricultural income is not taxed. So as the government stopped taxing agricultural income, the state, instead of extracting agricultural surplus, now made massive efforts towards improving agricultural productivity. Why this point is important here because focus of state on improving agricultural productivity was something that was not happening in colonial times. The Britishers made no efforts to increase agricultural productivity. Their only focus was to extract revenue. So this was a major breakthrough, that agriculture was done away from the tax system. There was no tax on agricultural revenue, and instead the focus of state shifted from taking benefits from agriculture to improving its productivity and ensuring equity in the society. It also led to the creation of progressive farmers instead of absentee landlords, because land belonged to the people now, to the cultivators now. So who had the motivation and incentive for aiming towards improvements in agricultural productivity. So a lot of social mobility also happened after this, and this is a positive conclusion. The second one talks about the recent shifts that are happening. You can say that contribution of agriculture to GDP has reduced. Over time, the high population growth and subdivision of land over many generations has automatically left little land above the land ceiling limits. So land ceiling limits are a thing of the past. They don't have any relevance now. Except in certain small pockets of the country, very large land holdings of the feudal type are a thing of the past. Landowners have only consolidated their political power. So from owning land to owning power in the political space, their focus has shifted from one place to another, and so this point says that land reforms have not helped as much as they should have. In any case, further reduction of ceilings to provide land for landless labourers would vastly increase the number of uneconomic and unviable holdings. See, to even move a tractor for efficient productivity, for more productivity, to even move a tractor on agricultural land, that requires a certain space. If we have more and more fragmented land, how will our technology benefit? Because whatever the technology we have in India for agricultural productivity is mostly imported. So since imported technology is there, it does not fit the size of land holdings that we have in India, which is very small as compared to developed countries. So either on one hand we develop our own technology, our own research and development needs to improve according to the the size of land holdings in our country, which is very small. And mostly land holdings are around like 2 hectares. We have small and marginal farmers in majority, and large farmers large handholders are in a minority. So either we do that, or we just put a hold on these land ceiling reforms, and we focus on increasing the productivity. So thus other answers are to be found in off-farm employment, increase in animal husbandry and other activities that do not require land. So just you can give the political perspective of it. We've given the constitutional perspective in the introduction itself. So that's up to you whether you want to include it in your introduction or conclusion, or at both places. Make sure that your content is not repeating. So this was the answer. We've examined all parts of it. We've addressed the needs. Now try to write your own answer. Tomorrow, for the case study, that would be the last discussion for this initiative for the first session. We had first 28 lectures schedule attached in the description. We are coming up with the further schedule starting from Monday onwards, but tomorrow would be the last lecture of this first season, and all the answers are being evaluated. There are many questions that are coming from your side, how to improve on English, or how to get content, or how to start even writing answers. So we are planning to take a session on that on Friday. So that would be there, and from Monday we'll start again with the answer writing part from day 29 onwards. So try to write your own answers, send them to us, send your answers to us within the next 24 hours at this email ID. It's also there in the description. And do not copy answers, add things from your side. There are many recent initiatives by government when it comes to this land reforms. Just add those, whatever ISRO is doing or geotagging is happening, whatever is happening in the current affairs, make sure that you add 1 to 2 points from that, because that is where you get the most marks. That is where the examiner feels motivated to give you more marks, and hence you make it to the finalist. So stay motivated, keep working hard, have faith in your answers, and send them to us. Take care.